Hi, welcome to the Library Podcast. This bookish podcast hopes to encourage readers to delve deeper into their local libraries and bookshops to find treasures among the shelves that extend past the new releases. My name is Kim, and this podcast is produced by the Marmorant Lake Public Library. On this podcast, you will hear from staff, patrons, and volunteers of the Marmorant Lake Library. Since it is summer, we thought it would be fun to investigate the world of beach reads. What are they? What are some good examples of the genre? Listen in to find out. We begin our journey by visiting an independent bookstore in the town of Stirling, Ontario. I sat down with Tracey of Stirling Book Co. to find out how a bookseller approaches the summer season and how they interpret the term beach read. Thanks so much for taking time to sit down with the To the Library podcast. We're really looking forward to getting a independent bookseller's perspective on the summer reading season and beach reads in particular. But before that, it's exciting that the Stirling Book Co. store is about to hit its 1 year anniversary mark. And I was wondering if you could share a bit of your perspective on owning an independent bookstore in a small town.
Absolutely. Well, thank you first of all for inviting me onto the podcast. It's very exciting. We'll be hitting our 1 year anniversary on July 11th, so very, very close to that. It's been a really great experience. The town and the sort of surrounding areas have been very, very welcoming. um, Looking very excited for another place to go, kind of in addition to the library. This one where they can actually keep the books, not have any fines for having them out too long, and exposing their kids to just more opportunities to read, and other adults as well, just getting an exposure to different things. So I think the libraries and the bookstores kind of serve a similar purpose, and so for me, it's just been really gratifying to be able to be part of that in a small town.
We are now in the summer season, and I was wondering for a bookseller, when do you start thinking about what books you're going to bring into the store for the summer season? Does it differ from the other seasons in any way?
Really, like much of retail, we should be thinking a season ahead, and so as this being our first year, that's been a little bit challenging to sort of get a season ahead. But the publishers do a great job of letting us know what's coming out, when stuff's going to be released, and so if we're on top of that, we're ordering, in January, February, March for the stuff that's coming out in the summer, which is always nice in the winter to be thinking about beach reads and what's great stuff to be reading when you're lounging around in the summertime. So very similar cycle. Ordering a season ahead, and kind of paying attention to when some of the big releases are so that you know that you're going to have enough stock for that.
Beach reads is a popular term now associated with the summer, and I was curious to hear your perspective on how you understand the term beach reads in terms of how publishers use it or how it's used in more of an advertising marketing sense.
The beach reads is really kind of that whole genre is meant to be, a little bit lighter in the summertime. Also, concept of paperback, so it's something you can shove in your beach bag and take it with you, or in your knapsack and take it with you. So with that, it's really lighter subjects, lots of romance, sort of rom-com type books are in that kind of beach reads genre. That's really what gets marketed. Some, huge releases this spring that would fit into that category. And it is really just, celebrating summer and celebrating kind of the flush of a summer romance. So that's really what they're trying to market.
Do you find that beach reads are a popular genre within the Sterling Rodden reading community?
Oh, very, yeah. Romance is still ours and the book industry's biggest selling genre, kind of followed very closely by the romantasy, which is, fantasy and romance combined. But the romance is definitely a big seller, and I know just from our one experience of last summer, we sold a lot of romance and romantasy in the summer. It did dip a little bit, into the fall, and then we see as the weather is approaching, and also because it's when the books are released.
Right.
So, there's, you're not getting too many beach reads released in November and December, and so it's, the market adapts to the customer adapts to the market, and so they know that's when those come out. So obviously they're more popular in this time of year.
How do you personally interpret the term beach reads? What's a good beach read for you?
So for me, it is that it's not so much a lighter subject, but it's maybe that taking a chance on something that you've wanted to read, but maybe in the fall and winter when you might have had a busier schedule, you might not wanted to have taken a chance on a book because your time is limited. Whereas hopefully everyone has a little bit more free time in the summer, or you're doing different things. You're maybe not as structured with your kids in school and homework and those kinds of things, and so it gives you an opportunity to branch out and maybe try something different. We curate some books in here that I like to call the take a chance romance. And so those are maybe a little bit more quirky, maybe a little bit more literary fiction as opposed to sort of the kind of classic beach read, but they have a romance overtone, or they're a little bit, quirky that you might think, oh, let's try that this summer. And it's a small paperback, so it's maybe a weekend's read, and that you don't feel like you've given away that time and not been rewarded by a good read. So for me, it's anything. We were away in Mexico in January, so we were on the beach in January. For us, our beach reads were all very different. I was reading one of our local authors, Andrew Forbes. I was reading one of his speculative fiction books on the beach, and also another book about the wisdom of the sea. So I figured that was appropriate to read sitting at the beach. So sometimes people are going to try and choose that. So for me, it can be anything. If you like heavy war stories of the war. Maybe sure you're sitting relaxing by your pool or at the beach. It's still okay to read that. So for me, it's really just giving people that chance to sort of explore what they're interested in and not feel that they've got a deadline that they have to have it finished. Where given they got a little bit more time to themselves, hopefully in the summer.
What are some books that you would like to recommend to listeners as good beach reads or good reads to take a chance on during the summer season?
So some very popular ones right now would be Carley Fortune, who is a Canadian writer. She's just released her fourth book, and it's not a sequel, but it has similar characters to one of her first books, and it's set in Barry's Bay, which is not too far from here. That's where she had spent a lot of summer, so that's a huge success. All of the first round of the editions of that were signed, and I think they're getting pretty low on the signed copies, but that was always fun to get a signed copy. Um, um, so that's certainly hers. V.E. Schwab has a new book out. It's about women vampires, so it's a little dark and gothic, but that's great for a summer evening, maybe sitting and reading that. And some of the take a chance books that I mentioned, one is Shark Heart, and it's a couple who get married, and it's magical realism. Once they've got married, he's diagnosed with this rare condition where he starts turning into a shark, and it's very believable. And really, it's about how they navigate their marriage with this thing happening to him. And I'm looking to do a little bit of feature on shark books this summer because it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws, which was officially the first real summer blockbuster. And obviously Jaws was a book by Peter Benchley the year before, and so wanting to sort of connect the film industry, the summer blockbusters, back to their original, written work. And so we're trying to grab a whole bunch of books that are shark related. So those might be a couple of those as well.
Much like the library, independent bookstores are much more than just the books that are housed within them. And I know that you have a lot of fun events that take place at the Stirling Book Co. Are there any events coming up that you'd like to share?
Sure. Well, next week, depending when you release this, the whole town is having an event called Paint the Town Red. And so it's really to try and encourage people to come out and shop local after just immediately after Canada Day. So that first weekend in July. And so lots of the stores and restaurants are having, sidewalk sale or specials, that type of thing. So we're participating in that. And then, the following weekend will be our 1 year anniversary. So we're going to be doing some special events for that too. We're also starting a summer reads, a kind of a bingo program for kids to choose maybe a series or choose one topic and try and sort of build on that over the summer. So we're sort of putting together our summer reads program, and we're also excited the end of July to be able to invite back Cult Records. They are they did a pop up here for us in May, and they're coming back. So anybody who's interested in vinyl and old VHS and band T-shirts, they're going to be here. So that's always a great day for us because we get to see a lot more different people than we might normally see in the store, and it just helps us connect with another business and show the town the things that we all have to offer.
Thanks so much to Tracey for sharing some insight into the summer reading season from a bookseller's perspective. You can find links to the Stirling Book Co.'s social media channels in the show notes below so that you can easily follow along with all the fun they have planned for the summer and beyond. Before hearing from a librarian's perspective on beach reads, I thought it was a good time to introduce the other voices you will hear on this podcast and to have a casual conversation about beach reads. Fred, I'm going to pass it to you to start.
Hi, I'm Fred. I'm a retired printmaker and a longtime resident of Marmora. I am a member of the Writers Club and Book Club at the library here, and I love to make little books, illustrated books that I bind myself. That was something I really enjoyed doing.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie. I'm a very enthusiastic patron of the Marmora Lake Public Library. I am a member of the Writers Group and of the Film Club. I really enjoy writing poetry and short stories and occasionally making short films about them.
To start things off, I was curious how both of you interpret the term beach read, both as a marketing term and personally, what do you think is a beach read?
I have a different idea of a beach read. For me, it's a light book, a lot of wit, and I'm going back to the 1940s for mine right now. Nancy Mitford is a favorite author of mine. She doesn't have anything taking place on a beach, but there is a bit of romance and a lot of wit. And it's a series of books. So if you enjoy the first one, you can go on to the next. I think The Pursuit of Love is the first place to start. The two protagonists, Fanny, the narrator, and Linda, have all sorts of adventures, and it's loosely autobiographical. Um, After The Pursuit of Love, you can go on to Love in a Cold Climate, and then The Blessing. And when you are thoroughly in love with Nancy Mitford, you can read a wonderful biography of the Mitford family. There were 6 crazy sisters, so interesting that they've just made a drama series about them called Outrageous. I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait.
I think in general, I don't tend to read or go for beach reads very often. Sometimes I do. When I think of a beach read, I think of something that follows a formula, almost like a Hallmark movie, where you kind of can predict where the story is going to go. And sometimes that's a little boring for me. I like to be surprised, pleasantly surprised when I'm reading a book. I tend to go for books that are a little darker, perhaps, or just have more meatier content. But definitely, if I want to escape this world, then I definitely would pick up a beach read.
I think for myself, when I hear the term beach read, and I think of it from a marketing perspective, I think of the cover art first. There's a use of bright colors. Often there's some yellow involved. There might be some pink or some red. And the illustration really tries to evoke sort of a fun feeling and, yeah, leaning into some romance into the covers. I don't personally go for beach read type books, so I'm trying to think, what do I read? If I was going to the beach, it really would just be whatever I'm reading at the time. Although I do think when you think of a beach read, it has to be something that you don't mind if it gets a little dirty, if it gets sun faded. It's going to be going into your bag and out into the world around you, if that be a pool or a beach or into a park. So it's not a book that you feel attached to or something that you're planning to reread in the future. It's something I think that it really just exists for the moment that you are in that summer and is something sort of breezy, a breezy read. I was hoping we could now share some beach read recommendations for the listeners. Fred, thanks so much for sharing your Nancy Mitford suggestions. Are there any other books that you would like to mention?
When I was first coming up to Marmora, we just had a trailer on a lot, and we'd come up from Friday to Sunday. One of the first things I did was get a library card, and I would come and pick up one of the Poldark series by Winston Graham and read as much as I could and drop it in the box on Sunday when we were leaving. It was more a read at the boat launch, but we did go swimming, so it could count as a beach read.
Definitely. Yeah.
For me, the first book that I thought of when I thought of beach read was Summer Sisters by the beloved Judy Blume, who many of us grew up reading. This novel definitely is for adults. But the more and more I looked into um, the key elements of a beach read, I realized that Judy Blume did sort of break some of the rules of a beach read. So I'm going to call it a pseudo beach read. So obviously it has a lot of the same elements of a beach read, like relatable protagonist, a warm beachy setting, which is Martha's Vineyard. Definitely the cover had the Adirondack chair and the ocean and the beach, and it was a page turner for sure. However, the reasons why I can't call it a full-fledged beach read is, first of all, because romance definitely takes a back seat to female friendship, which is the main theme of the novel. And also, some of the subject matter she covers is a bit dark and a bit spicy, which perhaps could turn a few people off who are definitely looking just to escape real life. But I definitely encourage fans of Judy Blume to check out this book. Again, it's Summer Sisters.
I'm going to try it.
I'm going to recommend the manga series Cat Plus Gamer because it is a very light and cute, enjoyable read. The story involves a woman who adopts her first cat, and she also loves video games, and she relates learning how to look after her cat to reaching levels in a video game. It's very enjoyable. The illustrations are wonderful, especially of the cat, and it's just a very wholesome read. And I think it's one that you want to share after you finish the first edition of it, and then you just kind of want to gobble up the rest of them. Lastly, I was wondering if either of you have any memories of reading on a beach.
I avoid beaches because I burn so easily. I'm always the one that's huddled in the shade. But yes, I would always bring a book to a beach. And the strongest memory I have was on the beach in Tarragona, Spain, when I was there as a teenager. And I had lugged a huge hardcover biography of Oscar Wilde by Frank Harris with me back from my library in Toronto. And that was what I was reading on that holiday. So that would have been the book I had at the beach.
For me, definitely goes hand in hand. If I'm by the poolside or if I'm at the beach, I definitely have a book in my hand. My favorite memories are traveling through Asia, when Southeast Asia, when I was in my late 20s, and everywhere you went to all the hostels, they had book exchanges. And some of the books were very sandy, very beat up, but it was just such a great way to not feel guilty about leaving a book behind because you would always just exchange it for another one. And there were always wonderful selections. And even at that time, many, many years ago, there was a choice. You had a choice between a light read or if you wanted something a little heavier.
Thanks so much, Fred and Anne Marie, for sharing your insights into beach reads and sharing those wonderful recommendations with the podcast. We are now going to move on to hearing from a librarian's perspective of how they approach beach reads and ordering books for a library for the summer season. And Anne Marie is going to take over and interview Kathy, the Marmora and Lake Library CEO.
Today I'm speaking with Kathy Farrell, the CEO of and librarian extraordinaire here at the Marmora and Lake Public Library. Welcome, Kathy, to the library. Thank you for being a part of our inaugural podcast.
Thank you so much. It's an honor, and I'm really excited about where these podcasts are going to take us.
All right, let's dive right in. Kathy, what constitutes a beach read from your perspective?
I'm really pleased that you added from my perspective because it really is different for all of us. For me, it's something that is light and enjoyable, something I read for rest and relaxing times. So nothing deep and dark. To me, a beach is not horror or, well, sorry, Stephen King. A few authors that come to mind are Ann Tyler, Susan Mallory, Carley Fortune, and Emily Henry.
Awesome. Do you think about beach reads when you're ordering books for the library year round or just in the months leading up to summer?
Well, for sure it's year round, depending on the publication date. So we have the summer in mind, just like we have Christmas in mind when we're doing ordering. There's some great tools to help with ordering. I follow popular authors on fantastic fiction so that I get notifications of new books and when they're coming out. It's a great way to keep current when I'm ordering. Also, I look at Goodreads, Library Bound, and other book sites for strong recommendations.
That's great. Are beach reads popular with your patrons?
Definitely. And not just the people on a beach. Beach reads are quite enjoyable throughout our community. A light read in the summer, life can be challenging, and a beach read is something that can help us find a more joyful time and place. So, in a hammock, on the dock, or curled up on the couch on a rainy day. Beach reads are also popular year round. We can escape our cold, damp winter and take ourselves to a warm beach with likable characters. We can enjoy a well-written, often humorous story without having to think too much. Perfect for a pre-nap activity.
Kathy, do you yourself enjoy beach reads? Do you have a book you would personally recommend?
It depends on my mood. Lots of times if I don't want to think too much and I just want to be entertained and go somewhere else, yes, I'll dig into a beach read. One of my favorites is The Rosie Project. It's a great series. It's light, funny, a good story with memorable, seriously quirky characters.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for talking with me today. I learned a lot from you.
Thank you so much for the honor. Great conversation, and thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie and Kathy, for that illuminating conversation. That brings us to the end of To the Library's first podcast episode. Some of the books you heard mentioned in this episode are The Diapause by Andrew Forbes, One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, V.E. Schwab, Shark Heart by Emily Haubeck, Nancy Mitford's novels The Pursuit of Love, Love in a Cold Climate, and The Blessing, the Poldark series by Winston Graham, Summer Sisters by Judy Blume, Oscar Wilde, His Life and Confessions by Frank Harris, the manga series Cat Plus Gamer, and The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. We hope this episode inspired you to pick up a book to be your summer beachside companion. To the Library will be back next month with an all-new episode. Until then, happy reading!